Oh my God. Let me show you what I got. This beat is so hot. Oh my God.
Is that bullshit?
I think not.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Six Pack Audio Network for the Candy Shop Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Clemons. Here with me are the Mike and Ikes themselves, Mike LaPlant and Ike Bonni. And today we are discussing 6 running back by committees and how those running backs are going to do for fantasy football this year. But before we jump into that, I'm going to remind everybody to please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans and become an all-access member. For just $9.99 a month, everybody, you just get access to our award-winning rankings, access to our draft cheat sheets, access to our F6P Discord, where you can ask us any of the Fantasy Six Pack analysts that are in there. Ask them any league-specific questions you want, and all the DFS advice that you could ever want from Dave, Eddie, Keith Fleming, Chris Robb, and everybody in there. And that's fantasy6pack.net/plans. Make sure to go check that out for just $9.99 a month. But guys, what do you say we jump? Go ahead.
You can check it out for free, Dylan. You don't have to pay. But I mean, if you want more, in-depth information, get more into the Discord channels that really can help you win, then you got to pay. But go check that out.
Yeah, for sure. But guys, let's just go ahead and jump right into things. And we are jumping into the Detroit Lions backfield, and that's Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs. He is being drafted, guys, in the first round now. His overall ADP is 11.8. That's RB4 off the board. Then you also have Mr. David Montgomery in that backfield as well. His ADP is much further down the board, 65.8 and RB20. Ike, I'm going to start with you, my friend. Which running back do you like better at cost out of these two guys?
I like both, but it depends really on your strategy. If you're a hero running back type of guy, you can, and PPR, by the way, if you're PPR league, Gibbs is obviously a pretty solid target, but standard, half PPR, less so. But for me, I like to go wide receiver heavy, so Montgomery fits exactly what I want to do, which is like round 5 or 6 is where he's going, which is perfect for your first or second running back. And he's just as good as Gibbs was in the second half of the year when they're both splitting the carries and all that.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I definitely don't hate where Gibbs is going at 11.8. Like, would you rather have Jahmyr Gibbs at that spot or the wide receivers at that point that are available are Marvin Harrison? You got Devontae Adams, Drake London, like Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua are gone. Are you okay? Would you draft Jahmyr Gibbs there, or would you still rather have Marv, Devontae Adams? Or
I would like to see what happens in Vegas. If it's Gardner Minshew, I'm actually pretty high up on Devontae Adams because Gardner was able to lead Michael Pittman to a top 12 finish, and Devontae is better than him. Everybody knows that. And he was still pretty good last year with Aiden O'Connell and all those goons. So just give him a quarterback that can hit the guy at the right time and know what to do. And again, you'll see a top 8 Devontae Adams again.
Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like we're going to see Gardner Minshew. It sounds like Aiden O'Connell still taking all the first team.
Fine, even then, he's going to get 170 targets like he did last year, but it's just going to be an interest. He's still a top 12 wide receiver.
Sure.
Mike, he's at least top 15. But we're talking about running backs, not wide receivers.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Mike, why don't you dive into this backfield? Who do you like better? Do you like both of them, or what are you thinking here?
I mean, I do like both of them, but if you're going to ask me at draft cost, which one I like more, it's definitely Montgomery. Gibbs, as we know, has the higher ceiling, potentially, we haven't seen it just yet, and we're hoping for more of a workload increase. Believe it or not, Gibbs actually had more snap share last year compared to Montgomery. He did play more games because Monty had
Touches were close though, like almost dead even.
Touches were close. It just means that when Monty's on the field, they're using Monty. When Gibbs is on the field, they're not necessarily using Gibbs. But this is something I touched on, in our previous episodes where I'm lower on Gibbs this season than other people. Just because of Montgomery there. Now, if, someone gets injured here, one of these guys are going to the moon. But, if we're, kind of projecting into this backfield, like, I really do think it's going to be a running back by committee again in this backfield. There's a lot of people out there that would disagree and say Gibbs is going to take the range, but I just can't see it with a guy like Montgomery. He plays into the scheme. He plays into the culture of Campbell. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy that had 11 total touchdowns inside the 10-yard line last year. He's not involved in the passing game, but he was 15th in rushing attempts and still finished as RB15 in fantasy points per game. So, like, getting him at RB20, you're getting him at his floor. So, as far as, like, draft cost goes, I like Montgomery, but don't be surprised if Gibbs does actually finish as an RB4 because he does have that ceiling, potentially.
Yeah.
So, one more thing.
Go ahead.
From weeks 10 to 18, which is probably what you can expect the workload to be, which is they're both getting about 15 touches per game, but Gibbs had more snaps because he's going to be on the field more on, like, third down and stuff. But Montgomery was still RB13. Gibbs was RB5. So, I mean, they got Gibbs right, kind of. Maybe drop him a little bit low, but they're way off on the ADP of Montgomery right now. He should be at 15.
The red zone attempts are the most disparative. But, I mean, it's not like they're not using Gibbs in the red zone at all. I mean, he had 8.
He's the big hitter. If they get to the goal line, it's going to be Montgomery.
He had 6 total touchdowns inside the 10-yard line compared to Montgomery's 11. So, like, they're just using Monty more inside the red zone, but it's not like they're not using Gibbs either. And he's still, Gibbs was 8th in targets for RBs last year. So it's like, if you're in PPR leagues, it's gold.
Yep. Mike, you said it best when you said you're drafted David Montgomery at his floor at RB20. Dan Campbell's not just going to stop using him. Like he said, he fits into the culture as that big bruising physical back that Dan Campbell's going to absolutely love. Like David Montgomery goes down, I still don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have the whole backfield to himself. If Jahmyr Gibbs happens to go down, David Montgomery is going to be that guy who can carry the 20.
I think Gibbs will get most. Like, you'll see 18 to 20 touches finally.
Yeah, I think he gets up to 20 touches if Monty's out, just because it's not his, rookie year.
But Montgomery is getting 20 rushing attempts with Gibbs out and plus targets and catches. So, 20 to 23 touches. So, yeah, I like both.
Montgomery catches the ball out of the backfield, too. So, go ahead, Mike.
He's like a great RB2, but, a handcuff for an RB1. That can, be an RB1 when that happens for the injury.
I'm totally fine going 0 RB and him being my running back.
Absolutely. Getting him in the 6th round as your first running back off the board. I have no problem with that either, if that's the route you want to go in your draft.
Because there's another guy you can get as an RB2 a little bit later we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
Oh, don't you ruin it now.
That's what we call in the biz a tease, Mike LaPlant.
He is
our next team we got here, guys, is the Miami Dolphins. This one's an interesting one. It really is. You got Devon Achane going as.
Why are you sighing, Ike? This is a team that is fantasy relevant. They're gold.
Fantasy gold.
We know,
who also drafted another running back, by the way, who is pure speed. So
pure speed. Zoom, zoom, zoom. But Devon Achane, ADP of 23.3, RB9 off the board as a part-time player there. And we have Raheem Mostert, who just, led the league in touchdowns last year at the position.
Which is a very hard to repeat thing.
Agreed. He's going as the 83rd player off the board in RB25. Mike, we'll start with you, with Ike starting last time. Give me your thoughts on both of these guys, and if you like one or the other, let us know who you like.
Man, my heart wants to say Devon Achane, but still draft cost is Raheem Mostert. It's just, I'm going to talk on Devon Achane here. I mean, yes, we're talking about a guy that is part of a running back buy committee. They added another guy in here, but it's Achane and Mostert's backfield. And, they are both players that can thrive on 15 touches. All right. They don't need a Derrick Henry, a Montgomery style workload to, flash what they can do best. So if they can each get 15 touches a game, they can both thrive in this offense. But Achane, we're talking about a guy who was 47th in rushing attempts, 36th in targets for RBs, and a 36% snap share, and still finished as RB5 in fantasy points per game. Like, if he could just get an increase, 30th in rushing attempts, 20th in targets for RBs. He had 8 total touchdowns inside the 10-yard line last year, so they like using him in the red zone as well. But we're talking about a guy here that ceiling is just something that could break fantasy football. We're talking like Jamal Charles, LaDainian Tomlinson type of production here with maybe, 75% of the actual opportunity, just because of the offense he's on and, the talent he has. So, like, Achane is really intriguing this year. I mean, it's hard. Like, he's a top 10 RB, so it's hard. Like, you're taking a risk, but, man, this is a guy who can easily finish his RB1 and can probably lap the competition if things, if things line up and he stays healthy for a full, 16 games, even like CMC did last year. So, man, I really want to go Achane, but Mostert's the better value here. We're talking he was tied for CMC. He was tied with CMC for the most touchdowns inside the 10-yard line. So, again, very hard to repeat thing, but we're talking about an offense that's going to be top 10. So, I mean, he could easily get 10+ touchdowns again if he stays healthy.
Agreed.
I'm intrigued to see what you say about this one.
Go ahead,
Ike. First off, I think both running backs are due for some wicked regression. Like you were saying, the efficiency of Achane, the touchdowns on the very little snaps and all that, hard to repeat, like you said, though. And plus, it's hard to repeat a 7.5 whatever yards per carry.
It's hard to repeat, but if he can get an increase in volume, it will even out on the efficiency side.
Yeah, I get. Okay, so you're saying he won't get 7 again, so we know that, like more like 4.5, 5, which is still good. Touchdowns, I can see him getting some. As for Mostert, though, I mean, that might be his peak year. I think it might be done for him.
His peak year.
No, like where he's going to be faded out of the offense now to where, because he's age 32. He's got injuries. Man, he dealt with injuries last year, knee, ankle injuries. He's going to
have a strong start again. It's just he might fade out.
Plus, they drafted another fast running back who they like.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, he's not going to lose a ton of touches, but him going as RB25, no way. I'd rather take Tyjae Spears over him. I'd rather take Brian Robinson over him. I'd rather take
good value, though. Good value. I mean, you're talking about a guy who finished as RB4 in fantasy points per game, and
buoyed by how many touchdowns? 22 or whatever.
But this is an offense that we know can score touchdowns, and they're going to be in the red zone a lot. You know they are, so it's not like it's out of the realm of possibilities for another 10+ touchdown season from Raheem Mostert. Heck, even both of them, Achane and Mostert.
I don't know. I just think the whole offense is due to regress quite a lot.
You want it's possible it could regress, but at the same time, man, this running back offense was like fantasy gold last year. Like, you wanted to have a piece of this backfield, whether it was Achane, Mostert, or even Jeff Wilson at times. So like, you just want, it's like the Rams situation. You just want the RB1 for the Rams. You just want whoever the RB1 is for the Dolphins because of the offensive, red zone opportunity.
I think it's going too early for me. RB8 for Achane is a little too high. And then RB25 for me, Mostert is
9 is Achane, but yeah, it is high. It's risky. It's baked in. It's baked into the ADP.
I'm not going to lie. I think Kamara finishes higher than Achane.
But here's the thing. You talked to, and sorry, Dylan. You talked about the efficiencies going to go down for Achane if he gets more workload. What if it doesn't? What if he gets an increase in workload and the efficiency doesn't go down?
Then we're looking at one of the best running backs to ever exist if you're averaging 7 yards per carry.
It's possible. We're always projecting these things.
I mean, not even Barry can do that on a regular basis.
I mean,
maybe
we're
in this day and age.
Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall to dethrone CMC this year, possibly. So, like, anything is possible, especially when you're in an offense like the Dolphins, where it's a Kyle Shanahan style running scheme where there are just wide open zone gaps everywhere. And then you got people in motion like Achane. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mostert are all in motion while they're running these plays, and the defenses just don't know what to do.
Yeah. The offense as a whole for the Dolphins really thrived when both of those guys were healthy at the same time. When one of them
And they
was
were
out
both
or when
used.
Achan was out, yeah, that's when
We
the
also have to
offense
take
started
into
to
account the
struggle.
schedule, which I personally haven't looked at their schedule yet because
The thing is, though, is
they
didn't win the division because the Bills snuck it out last year. So division winners get the number one division winner.
Well, like
You know,
when
in
do
the
they
schedule.
play New England? If it's late at New England, if it's late, like
It's just
winter,
I mean, you account for the offense to just kind of take a step back when it comes to the wintertime for the Dolphins.
You absolutely have to account for that. Is that if there are cold weather games towards the end of the year, it could be bad news bears because we saw that towards the end of the year last year.
It really helps having Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill because you can't stack the box, which makes Achan another who could be the fastest dude on the team. We're not completely sure. Just wide open range. So I get it, but still, I don't know if the touches will be there.
Plus, I think we saw last year too. The Dolphins need to go all out to try to win the division and be the number one seed because they're going to want home field advantage.
They can't play in Kansas City
and that offense as a whole
or Baltimore.
It doesn't work as good. So definitely that's an intriguing storyline to follow throughout the season. Looking at this next team, and I feel like we talk about this team and this running back duo every week of the season on our weekly game preview show. And that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got former first-round running back Najee Harris going as the 80th player off the board, RB23. And then you got his running mate, Jalen Warren, who's going about 19 picks after him in the 9th round, and RB32. Ike, we're going to start with you here. Are you in on Najee, or would you rather have Jalen Warren?
On that beer.
9 picks after.
I'm fine with Najee over Warren. I really am. First off, I kind of want to know the quarterback situation first before I choose.
I don't think it matters.
Before I draft,
cram it down teams' cram holes, no matter who the quarterback.
The big thing though is who's going to be
holes.
the quarterback because Russell will probably dump it off more than Justin Fields will because Justin Fields will probably run it more likely. So if it's Russell Wilson, I think both. Anyways, I think both will be fine.
You spill your beer?
No, my notebook, which was basically my script, so I'm host.
It's prompter.
Yeah. But if it's Russell Wilson, I like Najee because they're going to pound it with him. Plus, he'll see the target still. And for some reason, it's every time he's been in the league, he's been RB2 or better. And that's 3 straight years. So,
I mean, at least Najee's going as RB23 now. He's not near an RB1 where he was being drafted last year, RB12 to 15, wherever it was last year. RB23 is a much better value. But I like Jalen Warren too, but I definitely don't hate Najee at cost. He's going to be the red zone guy. He's going to be the short yardage guy. Mike, let's head on over to you. What do you think here about this backfield?
I mean, when you're going kind of 0 RB, these are both kind of solid options, especially in PPR. If it's half PPR, give me Najee all day. But if it's PPR, Jalen Warren does have a little bit more of an argument. He was 6th in targets for RBs last year. He gets 48% of the snap share. It's just, man, you touched on it with the red zone. He had 0 touchdowns inside the 10-yard line last year.
Nuts stat, Michael Plant.
I'm not surprised by it, though.
Meanwhile, Najee Harris had 8 touchdowns inside the 10-yard line.
He's getting touchdowns every year, man, 7+.
But yeah, Jalen Warren 0 touchdowns total touchdowns inside the 10-yard lines. But Najee Harris, man, he's just a guy that always gets rushing attempts. 6th in rushing attempts last year. He still was 33rd in targets for RBs. So I mean, it's not like he's forgotten in the passing game. And Arthur Smith just likes to cram it down people's cram holes, like you said. So like I think I like Najee Harris. He edges out here a little bit more because I value red zone touches more than I value necessarily receptions. Just because touchdowns are worth 6 points.
Fair.
But yeah, give me Najee Harris here. Jalen Warren if you're 0 RB, and Jalen Warren is a solid target as well.
It's also because they're going so close together. Like it's only couple rounds later.
It's about 18 picks, 19 picks.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
With
not
all
like there's a huge difference. So, like, do I want to wait one round to get Jalen Warren, or do I want to get Najee now and actually get the number one back probably in that
Warren
offense?
Warren was RB30 last year in fantasy points per game,
Yeah.
which was better than Harris with all the volume Harris got. But it's just we expect this offense to be a little bit more efficient. QB play is upgraded, even slightly. The offensive coordinator, is upgraded. So I just like efficiency is going to be a benefactor of the guy who receives the most volume.
Yeah, it's this offense. The OC was an upgrade with Arthur Smith for both of these running backs because we saw him last year in Atlanta. Even though he had such an awesome talent in Bijan Robinson, he's still going to use that second guy in Tyler Algier. And I feel like with him in Pittsburgh, he's going to use both of these guys. That's why I don't.
That's
mind
why both are good
at either.
Yeah, both are good.
Absolutely. Another backfield where I like both the guys in it is the Tennessee Titans, fellas. You got Tony Pollard, who's going as the 81st player off the board, RB24, right behind Najee Harris. Then you have his running mate, second-year man, Tajay Spears, going. This really took a big gap, I feel, within the last few weeks. He's going all the way down at 110 and RB35 now. LaPlant, we're starting back with you, my friend. Who do you like better in this backfield?
I know the cheaper value is Tajay Spears, but I still like Tony Pollard more. I follow the money. They paid Tony Pollard the money. Tajay Spears is a drafted player from a previous regime where what's his face? Brian Callahan brought over Tony Pollard, intends on using him is kind of how I look at it. Pollard, we've seen do it before. He was 7th in rushing attempts last year, 11th in targets for RBs. Yeah, he struggled inside the red zone, only 5 touchdowns inside the 10-yard line, but still was RB23 in fantasy points per game. Tajay Spears, he was playing behind Derrick Henry. He was still 9th in targets, which is nice. We do like that, but only 1 touchdown inside the 10-yard line. I mean, obviously he wasn't the guy when Henry was there. It makes me question if he's the guy. Makes me question if he's the guy with Pollard being there too as well. So I lean Tony Pollard in this case just because we've seen it from him before, albeit not very good of a showing.
Well, last year, man, he was coming off a broken damn leg.
I was just going to mention that.
Year after.
Who knew that
he had to
who
come
knew if
back
he was
a little bit.
100% healthy? Yeah, I feel like he's being unfairly treated as from the fantasy committee. Remember, man, this was a guy who was being drafted as a top 5 RB last year in Dallas.
Overdrafted. We were overdrafting him.
100%. But now with him going as RB24 and an offense that we'd like to think is going to be better, that invested in the offensive line the last 2 drafts, invested into wide receiver weapons. They just invested in this offense as a whole with Tyler Boyd coming over, Calvin Ridley, Brian Callahan, an offensive-minded guy. But Ike, Tajay Spears or Tony Pollard for you, man?
I like both equally the same, but if I had to pick, I'm still going Pollard because when he did start looking better, like when his legs started feeling better or ankle, whatever it was, I forgot. He was actually RB14 in that final 8 whatever games. So he was getting back to form. You're not going to see a top 12 finish from him because Tajay Spears will steal some work. I mean, the dude had 70 targets last year. I don't expect it to go too far down. But like LaPlant said, it was a previous regime, so maybe they are going to use Pollard in a workhorse workload, but I don't think they should.
I don't think they should. But I'd say like 60-40.
Because when he's in a timeshare, he's still good. He was an RB8, like you guys said, in 2022 with Zeke. So now that he's got Spears there to lighten the load a little bit, I think he'll be fine. You
think he's happy he's not still in Dallas with Zeke?
I'm happy. I think he's happy about the paycheck he got from the Titans. Yeah. So I don't think he's upset about that. I truly think they're going to be pretty interchangeable. It'd be closer to 50-50 in my opinion. But yeah, I like both of these guys as well. And if you don't get Pollard early, and by early I mean the 7th round, you can turn around and get Tajay Spears later in the 10th, which is very nice. We got 2 more backfields to jump into, guys. And this one is on a very good offense, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. You got Zach Moss going as the 95th player off the board, and his running mate, second-year man, Chase Brown, going 123.9. Zach Moss, RB30. Chase Brown, RB40. Ike, going to you. Are you going with the free agent acquisition of Zach Moss or the drafted second-year man out of Illinois, Chase Brown here?
100% Zach Moss.
Good answer.
Sure, Chase Brown showed some flashes last year, like
Dylan,
maybe
cover your
2
ears.
receiving
Dylan's gonna be
touchdowns.
hurt.
But he didn't show enough to be the workhorse back or anything close to that. So that's why they got Zach Moss. So I expect Chase Brown to be in on third downs, not all the time, because Zach Moss can do that too. So them being only 10 spots in between each other, between RB30 and 40, is super disrespectful to Zach Moss, who, when given a workload like he's probably projected, he was a top 12 running back in 4 of the first 5 games with the Colts, where he is getting 20-plus touches, which, will he get that much? Maybe not, but I expect about 18-ish, more than likely. And even then, he should be a top 12 running back when given those snaps. At least it was last year. So him going as RB30 is just – it's just insane, man. I would love for him to be my flex running back at that spot.
Let me ask you, do you get any Mike Davis vibes from him by chance or no?
No, Mike Davis was a training camp type hype where everyone saw his thighs and they're like, whoa.
That's more Zamir White for me. Really? I don't know why. Zamir White's the one I get Mike Davis vibes from. But because Mike Davis took part in a bad offense. He was on the Falcons when they were bad. Like, Zamir White's on a projected to be bad offense. We don't think the Bengals offense is going to be bad. So, like, Zach Moss could just get, like top 10 in red zone rushing attempts. But, I'm with Zach. I'm with Ike. It's because of Zach Moss. He's on my mind. I love him. I'm getting him everywhere I can. You mentioned it. When he was given the workload, he finished as a top 15 RB. And even when Jonathan Taylor came back and he was still in the mix, he still finishes RB 28. All right. Now, he's being drafted as RB 30. So you're getting him at his floor. All right. He had Chase Brown. I just have no appeal for him. I know Joe Mixon was there last year, but if Chase Brown was going to be involved, why was he, 72nd in rushing attempts, 67th in targets, 0 touchdowns inside the
like But he showed 2 long touchdowns, man. That's got to guarantee him to actually.
That shows me it's a change of pace. Apparently. That shows me a change of pace back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It shows me a change of pace back like a Tony Pollard to Ezekiel Elliott, which, I can see, a Zeke-esque season from Zach Moss bumping him into an RB1 territory, being on a good offense and having most of the opportunities.
I can see him doing what Joe Mixon did, just less targets, obviously. There's no chance he's seeing 50 targets. We know that.
But I've been getting Zach Moss everywhere. He's one of my favorite targets.
I'm with you guys. I'd rather have Zach Moss at his cost than Chase Brown, but you guys are sleeping on Chase's ability to be able to carry a workload, though. He did it in college.
Just have fun. It's not that we don't think he can't carry a workload. It's just they chose somebody else to try.
I think we got to wait one more year for him.
Like you said,
this is a big year for Chase.
He's a 5th-round pick, and they went out and spent money on Zach Moss when there was a lot of running backs out there. They wanted Zach Moss for some reason. I mean, but they wanted Zach Moss.
They reminded him of Mixon probably with the weight
over Barkley, Jacobs, all them. But yeah, they probably were staying on the cheap side. But Zach Moss can handle the workload. It's not that Chase, like I said, not that Brown can't. It's just I don't think it's going to happen this year.
We haven't seen enough yet. This is a big year for him. If he can,
it's not going to be fun trying to start
he'll get 10 touches. 10-ish touches. If he can do good with that, next year is more of where he should be higher ranked.
I hear you. I also get why Zach Moss is going as RB30, why the public is a little weary on him too, because it took him 4 years to finally show and break out.
Dylan.
Because Zach Moss, everyone thought he was, what?
Why is he only going 4 spots after Brian Robinson?
That's Eckler. No,
Brian Robinson, RB36, RB40 is Chase Brown.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts too.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, let's just transition into this one, into the Washington
I want this
Commanders
one bad.
backfield,
I like this one.
This is absolutely ridiculous. Brian Robinson is he's the sleepiest of sleepers there is right
Literally.
now. As RB36 off the board, 111th player
I would
his
actually
running
say I would say Zeke is the sleepiest. The
No,
sleepers being on
nope,
the Cowboys
nope,
this year.
nope,
maybe
nope,
because
nope.
Zeke is old and sleeping, maybe, but
Yeah, I mean that
He literally is the
You
sleepiest
didn't-
running back.
You didn't specify.
But fellas, Austin Eckler, his running mate, who comes over from the Chargers, and you guys know me, I'm an Austin Eckler lover. I was all in on him when he had his 2 awesome years. Absolutely love the guy. He's going as the 95th player. RB31 still. Brian Robinson, RB36. Mike, I think it's your turn, so I'm going to let you go ahead and start out here and make Ike wait a little bit more because I know he wants to go at it here. But what's your thoughts on this Commanders backfield, and why is Brian Robinson being slept on, man?
I mean, he's just being slept on because people are trying to follow the money in Austin Eckler. But I feel like this is going to be a clean sweep, and we're all going to want Brian Robinson on this one just because of the draft cost.
They're going to be throwing fisticuffs at the draft for him.
I mean, don't get me wrong. In a PPR league, Eckler is still viable at RB31. It's just it's going to be a pain in the ass, deciding when to play him.
He's so freaking toast, Mike LaPlant.
Have you seen him run lately?
All last year, he was injured all last year.
He's always hurt.
Yeah, but this is the guy who has literally came out and voiced his opinion, saying, "I do not want majority of the workload." All right, he wants.
All right, cool. He gets Antonio Gibson workload. RB30.
But this is just kind of, it lowers the ceiling on Brian Robinson a little bit more if he's not going to be involved in the passing game as much as we projected him to potentially be, because he was 27th in targets for RBs last year. Brian Robinson was 5 total touchdowns inside the 10-yard line, which was tied with Eckler. So I still think it's Robinson's backfield just because they're going to lean on the guy who's younger, and then Eckler's like the third down guy. He's sprinkled in the red zone. If it's like a long 3rd and goal or something. Brian Robinson is the guy I want just because, man, Eckler, like you said, I don't think he's toast. He was hurt, but Brian Robinson just has more juice to me. You're going to get a 60-yard touchdown from Brian Robinson compared to Austin Eckler getting a 60-yard. You're lucky if you get a 30-yard touchdown from Austin Eckler.
You can't even see Austin Eckler run faster than 13 miles an hour on a breakaway run this year, man. That's what I mean.
Do you have more RBs around that range, 31 to 36, offhand by chance?
I could scroll through real quick. Keep talking for a sec.
No problem. I mean, Eckler was 31st in rushing attempts last year. He was, RB 21 in fantasy points per game. And the, reason he finished even that high was because he was 5th in targets for running backs. I just don't see him being 5th in targets again this year. I mean, we're talking about Jaden Daniels is a guy who doesn't really dump it off. He's probably going to scramble more often than not.
Yeah, but that's another thing. Good point.
They're going to design plays for Eckler, though, and that's where I see him being in there. And he's going to be a mild flex play. From time to time. It's just you're never going to know when to play him.
So you got Eckler at RB31 there, and then you have
Robinson 36.
Jalen Warren RB32, Devin Singletary RB33, Trey Benson RB34, Tajay Spears RB35, Robinson. Then you got Gus Edwards behind him, Blake Corum, Jerome Ford, Zach Charbonnet. It's kind of like Brian Robinson is the last, or him and then Gus Edwards are, I feel like, that's where the tier breaks off of then guys that I am no longer.
I would say after
starting as my RB2.
I would say the tier actually is Brian Robinson because Gus Edwards is still kind of fringy.
True.
Like if you want to start him, like you feel comfortable with Brian Robinson. Gus Edwards is more of a risk type of play, just like going for J.K. Dobbins. Like that would have been another backfield that was good to talk about.
Yeah, that would have been okay. But Ike, go ahead. I'll let you add him here. What's your take on Brian Robinson over Eckler?
First off, Brian Robinson is going as RB36. And in 2023, in his 15 games, he never once finished below that ADP. In 15 of his 15 games, he finished as an RB35 or better, which might be the most consistent running back. I'm sure all the other running backs at least busted
outside
once.
of CMC.
Maybe. But still, that just, when I saw that stat, it kind of like blew my mind. Just he's consistent, and he's worked in the timeshare his whole career because he's had to deal with Antonio Gibson. So you don't have to worry about that. So, I mean, Eckler, for him to be good, he needs the targets. He needs the touchdowns because when his 2 big years, he averaged 18 total touchdowns and 100+ targets. He's going to need that to do that. You can kiss that goodbye. He's considered undraftable to me unless you're really down bad at running back. So, I mean,
I really don't see why you would want Austin Eckler with a mobile quarterback who's not going to check the ball down. I just don't see it. With an offense that has Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson to catch the football, I just don't see.
Jaden Daniels, is he going to be dumping the ball off to a running back, or is he going to run?
No,
oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, we're on the same page here.
Devil's advocate though is they got Cliff Kingsbury here. When he had Kyler Murray, he was still using David Johnson, or Kenyon Drake, or whoever the running back was in the passing game. Like, he designed plays for them, screen plays, all that. So like, Eckler's going to be involved. I still think he's draftable. It's just he is fringe worthy when it comes to the flex.
He will be involved the first couple of weeks, and then they're going to see how washed he is and how slow he looks, and they're going to be like, oh boy, let's go back to Brian.
Yeah. There's nothing super flashy about Brian Robinson, but you said it best. Like, he is just very stout.
Consistent. Just as an RB3 as a flex option, he's just there for you. And he's improved off his freshman year in yards per carry, targets, all
his
that.
Freshman year, huh? You got college football?
Freshman
year
is on his mind.
Technically, it is. You could still be his freshman year.
All these online dynasties we got going on right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Football 25 is it's just a great time to be alive, guys. And we got fantasy football right around the corner, everybody. NFL season right around the corner. The Bears, we got real football Thursday night for the
King of the North,
game.
man. Gonna take down the
wait.
Packers. Jordan Love, they paid a guy that much to trip in a huddle. Go off false start on himself.
You sound like a usurper right now. You're not the king.
King of the North.
I love it, guys.
He's got the true claim. Jordan Love's a pretender.
Keep drinking.
Before we get out of here, Ike, you got any articles or anything coming up here?
Not till August, actually. I mean, you guys could check out all my old ones of quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end sleepers. So, and then team previews. But other than that, nothing for a little bit.
The draft guide we did whipped up. That was
nice. In fact, I actually have RB handcuff coming up, which is different than committee, which I'm gonna have to explain in my article now because you didn't explain it on here.
Make sure to check that out. Michael Plant, what do you got happening, man? Anything important or no?
No,
so check out the shows. Check out the shows with Joe on Thursday nights. Stay tuned. Make sure you get in on the Discord, guys. Get in on the memberships. That's where you make the buco bucks. Listen to Dave. I mean, I was listening to Joe's and Dave's conversation. Dave's already in week 1 contest already.
Yeah, like, no, I saw that they released all the prices and stuff for players. DFS, the sites.
You could be picking his mind, Chris Robin, Keith Fleming for a whole 2 more months.
Yeah,
or 1 month before that game actually starts. Like, these are valuable, people with valuable information stored inside their noggins. There's a reason they got big heads. But yeah, that's the only thing. Go check out the memberships, check out the Discords. I mean, you can talk with Joe too. We're talking about a top 5, ranker on Fantasy Pros. The guy's down to earth, and he's so nice. I know he's our boss, but he's a friend too.
He's so nice, he says. No,
he is. But he is nice to me, at least. I don't know about you.
Such a good guy, man.
Such a good guy. Unlike you assholes.
But you were wrong, Mike. We don't have Joe's show on Thursday night this week. It's actually Sunday, the Fantasy 6-Pack Hour, and I will actually be on the show talking NFC.
Are you going to be back in time?
Yes. I'm trying to remember. Jim Coventry from RotoWire. He's the other guest on the show, so I'm looking forward to being on the show with him. Make sure to check that out on Sunday. We'll be going live.
That'll be fun.
So. And then make sure to be on the lookout next week as well, as we're starting our training camp check-in. I'm interviewing 32 writers/beat reporters, one from each team, and that's going to be out starting next week. So make sure to check that out.
That should be fun. That's going to be good info, guys. Check that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure you hit the bell for notifications.
Yep, hit that like button if you haven't already. And that's it, boys. For the Mike and Ikes, I'm Dylan, and the candy shop is closed.
Take care.